This is a brief lesson on finding domain and range. Shouldn't be functions. That's the unit. Functions is the unit. This lesson is on domain and range. Very simply, what we have here are 4 different representations of points. And when you have a representation of points, that is called a relation. Okay, in most cases it's going to be x and y, but you need 2 variables. One, in most cases, x, the other in y. Very simply, the domain are your x values and the range are the y values. Another way to think about this is input and output. Okay, the input is your domain, output is your range. So is it the input or the output? Whenever you see a list of points, the first values are always your inputs, and the second values are always your outputs. Whenever you see a table, your inputs are on the left, your outputs are on the right. Whenever you see a graph, your inputs are your horizontal numbers, and your outputs are your vertical numbers. So in order to get domain and range, domain. So just zooming in on this first one, I'm going to, since there's only 4 points here, I'm going to list the numbers. What is the smallest number in my domain? I'm going to start with that. So it looks like 2 is the smallest number. The next number is 3. Notice we have 2 3s here. I only need to represent that once in the list of what's in the domain. And then the next one is 4. And since there are no more, I put the end of my curly brace. Looking at finding the range. Looking at the y values here, or the outputs. The lowest number is 1. And then we have a 4, 6, and a 7. And that is my range. When we look at a chart or a table, it's actually even easier. All of these are going to go into the domain and all of these are going to go into the range. However, you can see that there's some repeating values. We don't list the repeating values. So my domain, smallest number is 1, it happens twice. Then it's 2, that happens twice. Then it's 3, that happens twice. The range, however, the only number I see is 4. So that's my entire range. And then we get to this graph. Now it's a little bit more work because we literally have to go through and find what the smallest number on the domain is. So I'm going to go on the x-axis here. It's not labeled, but we're going to just assume that it's the x-axis. And I'm going to go to the furthest left place I see a point, which is right here. And this is, if this is 1, this is -1. So this would be at -1, 2, 3. So this point right here has an input of -3. The next place left to right that I see a point is here, and the x value is -1. The next place is here. So there's a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4 as well. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Notice that I go in increasing order here to keep things organized. It's pretty important. Okay. Then I'm going to look for the numbers that occur for those points from an up and down perspective. So I'm looking from the bottom up, and the first place I see a point is here at -1. That's my first value from my range. Keep going, keep going, keep going. I see 2 points at +1. I only have to say that number once. I see 2 points here at 2, and I see 1 point at 4, and I'm done. Okay, so each of those situations, you have in this case, 4 points, 6 points, 6 points. So when you see a set of points, you can list the numbers in the domain and range. When you see a situation like this, however, it's a little bit more confusing because we're really getting points. Everywhere you see a part of this curve here, there's really an infinite number of points. We really can't list them all. So we can kind of say a few different things. The correct mathematical way to say this would be this compound inequality. I guess you don't need the brace on that. Now, if you are not, excuse me, comfortable with that, you can say all numbers from -2 to 2. And that's exactly what this mathematical expression means. Okay? And I should have done something a little different here, but the range also goes from -2 to 2. The difference being is that we're going along the y-axis, so I'm using the y. And again, it's all numbers from -2 to 2. So that's a quick look at domain and range.